Greetings. I am pleased that Dragonair has seen fit to weave our threads of fate together once more. Hopefully, everyone else was able to fully enjoy the Night of Flute Train. I was exceedingly successful in my gathering, and hopefully you were too. Last week's episode, Gift from the Blue Robe Priest and Going Home, we got to see a bit more of the interaction between this new Blue Robe Priest Sylvester and Myne. He takes a tour of the orphanage and the workshop, sees all that she's doing in life. He also goes on a hunting expedition into the forest with the children, and Lutz and a new character that they briefly introduced, Leon, was mentioned. He also, while touring the workshop, meets up with Benno, and after that meeting and subsequent talks with Sylvester, Benno looked rather frazzled, very stressed out, but he mentions it's an incredible opportunity. So it's something to keep an eye out for whatever's going to happen in the future with regards to Benno and Sylvester. After everything that Sylvester saw in the orphanage and the workshop, he then gives a protective charm to Myne. He mentions to her that she needs to wear it, and if she's ever in trouble, to press her blood seal upon it, and he will come and protect her. So it's nice that she's getting more people willing to protect her, now that we're getting a bit more information about possible enemies to her. Towards the end of the episode, we get Delia still trying to work her way back into the High Bishop's camp. She is keeping Jenny up to date on all of the goings-on in Myne's workshop and anything that she's able to pick up on. She mentions that there is some sort of celebration about someone important to Myne, but she doesn't have all the extra details. And Jenny briefly talks about the life she had with Rosina, serving under Lady Christine. She did not seem particularly happy about the circumstances that Rosina was in, so that piece seems difficult after the talk that Jenny had with Delia. She mentions that there is a noble coming and that this noble is interested in children. Delia seems to perceive this as a possible way out of the orphanage, out of the church. But after Delia is out of earshot, she also mentions this noble is looking for children with the Devouring. Speaking of children with the Devouring, Myne eventually gets the clear from Ferdinand to return home. She goes home, she's super happy, she's super close with her family, so it's everything she wanted all winter. The next day, or just shortly thereafter, her mother Effa goes into labor and she gives birth to a blue-haired baby boy that they named Camel. That was the end of the information that we were getting from Myne's personal life. The chibi scene at the end of the episode mentioned some very sad facts. So child rearing is difficult when there's very limited medical infrastructure and limited resources. Not every child is going to survive, and we learn that there were quite a few other brothers and sisters that Myne should have, but they didn't make it. I commit to Dragonair, the goddess of time, 69 units of mana. I commit to Dragonair, the goddess of time. So yes, we have this new child that's been born into Myne's family. The next episode, episode 32, is titled The Abandoned Child of the Cathedral and Making Colors. So we have, I guess, the new child in Myne's family, and then now we're going to see where the orphans, or at least where this particular orphan is coming from. The Abandoned Child of the Cathedral. And then the second half of the episode, I'm guessing, is titled, or the second major plot point is Making Colors. Uh-oh. Trailer scene. It's the bishop. Of course it is. So we have Daldorf, Gerlach. Who's the other guy? She's the mother of Shikikoza. And it was his soldiers that disappeared in the attack on Myne.
こ
Bindewald.
ういう見込みならよ。売っていただきたい。確
It's the
か。
implication of how she's going to get those soldiers back.
アウレーデンフェストの許可は不要のはずでしたな。
So they're trying to. Oh, there it is, a neighboring domain, Arensbach, and they're trying to step around Ob Ehrenfest. Everyone lives happily ever after. I mean, good voice choice, but does it too well. High Priest, no, it's High Bishop. A black stone, and it made him happy. The scene was a bit different in the light novel, but I'm okay with it. A nice tart apple wine is this week's selection. Let's go. Ben and Child at the Cathedral and making colors. Doesn't sound cute at all. Oh yeah, that's right. Too much like Maze Hughes. Doting parent.
さっさと印刷の話をしろ。
活版印刷をしばらくするな。対立する既得権益が貴族になるそうです。
That's that.
貴族が貴
Can't
族
step on their toes.
一つは絵に色付けができるように色付きインクの開発。
Can't move forward in one direction, she's going to choose to move forward in another.
ガリ版
It's good seeing that even Benno uses a diptych. Of course, that's why she wants to rush that part of the development.
ためにも先日私の弟が生まれました。
Yeah,
まあ
Fran didn't like that. Fran seemed concerned.
名前はカミルです。生まれたばかりですごくちっちゃくて、泣いたら赤くてくちゃくちゃで、とっても可愛いんです。マイン様、その言い方ではあまり可愛いようには聞こえませんわ。
I agree.
ビルもその赤ん坊はどうしたのですか？
Stork dropped it off.
それが
Survived birth, but just didn't have the resources to provide.
うちのカミルの方が断然可愛いね。
Looks like Astro Boy.
お乳をあげるのです。
Gonna have to pay attention to the wording there. I made the mistake of Googling all the terms I was hearing. I should have known better. Yes, she read this in a book. Despite the fact that the books at the church are pretty much only gonna be religious texts. I mean, maybe it's in the lore.
この泣き方はお腹が空いているのです。
Are you sure about that?
おむつを変えないと。
孤児院に来たがる一人の者が見つかればのは
Pious enough to come to the orphanage.
それは難しそうですね。
The advantage of having a blue robe instead of a gray robe. What you decide is what happens.
交代で見てください。かしこまりました。もうどうして私がそんなことをしなければなりませんの？当然ですわ。デリアはこの子のお姉ちゃんですもの。お姉ちゃん？どちらがいいお姉ちゃんになるか競争しましょう。それは私の勝ちに決まっていますわ。デリア、
Too easy.
マイン様に乗せられるんだよな。うるさいわね。でしたら私と似た名前がいいわ。家族って
Already feeling possessive. Last episode, I think she also mentioned she was curious about Myne's infatuation with her family and its importance.
あなたの名前はお花になりました。イルカが笑いましたわよ。
So Delia can be nice. She can smile. You do not have a way with children, Myne. Why would you bother a sleeping infant? Why?
絵本見てる。さすが私の弟。
They'll look at anything new you put in front of them.
いろんな絵本を。
Oh, yay, I think of...
父さん、あの子。
Okay, I'm happy so far. I like the posture she had right at the beginning. She's
こちらは新しくインク
not
協会の
calm.
会長になったビアスだ。
Wait, did Daniel also have
俺はインク
a
工房
yellow
の親
ring?
方だ。
Oh, Ink
再び
Guild.
インク協会の会長になってくれ。感激
Previous
だ。
head wolf is
今までウォルフ
no
様の
longer
世界
with
では
us.
後ろ
He
の
has
隠し事
climbed
を
the
引き受け
towering
てくれると
staircase.
言い出す男
He
だ。
has become heir. Started
ギルド長
growing
の
some
今川
daisies.
兵長にギルド長の店に頼んだらどうだ。
よそに譲るんですか？
Actually
少しはやっぱ
stepping
りお前
back.
もだが足元を見られるな。ジジイの高笑いが聞こえるようだ。だからギルベルタ商会に頼みたいんだ。
An odd
Yeah, I
sound
guess
to use. Wasn't
Bookworm.
exactly a nice person to work
イオ
with.
インクの開発に協力してくれれば構いませんよ。
イオインク
Please back up.
イオ
Please.
インク
Please back up. Who? Thank you,
上手く言
Heidi.
い出したシュン。
お嬢様のインク作りは斬新で、これからもよろしく。
You were seated at a table to talk.
今日ここに来たのは植物使用
Why'd you get up?
すり方で、
マイン様。
Good expression. Interesting facial features, okay.
決まりだね。だから今から工房に戻り、
They're in a world of their own.
星から集めてみたんだ。素敵、行きたいです。
落ち着けよ。まだ話は終わってない。
Birds of a feather.
ルッツ、よく
He
見
should
て
have
ろ。
run off.
マインが二人になっ
変わった人だね。マインが言うな。
Two unique people now.
じゃあそのようにして。
こんにちは。
Oh, good. They kept the shot of that door so you can see there is a way to get to the back room, which is where I guess this scene is taking place. That camera angle, I don't really see it that often.
これに鉱石を粉状にしたものを混ぜるだけ。
Unless you're in the trunk of a car.
やってみよう。
Pretty much the only time I've seen that camera angle used.
あと
Or when you're looking at what's inside a briefcase.
溶接です。
そうですね。
He's used to being dragged around by his
黄色い
wife.
土とアマニ油を混ぜると黄色と茶色の中間の色ができるはずです。
Are you sure about that? It's a beautiful blue.
ミッシェルの
Oh, they have a gill there as well. Just up a bit fancier than normal.
青緑、やっと欲しい色ができたか。
If his eyes were just a little bit more on Lutz,
まさか
that would have been perfect. But I like the detail that he's there, watching.
どうし不思議だよね。ぜひとも解明したいよね。
Oh, what's her name? From Attack on Titan, what's her name? Angie Zoe.
わかり合える？私は理由や原因より結果が知りたいです。
This is where they differ. Got one color she was happy with. I was like, okay, now let's figure out another color.
色が予測不可能っていうのが困るよね。どうしたマーケル？マインさん、俺の所持版。春になったらあげる約束でしたよね。
He looks so sad and dejected, like, did you forget about me? Mine probably did forget. And he gets head pats. That's so cute. So cute.
他に変わったことは？
孤児が一人増えました。
もう下がってよい。
He looks so excited talking about the other orphan. Or the new orphan, rather. Oh, those statues weren't bald, so they're different ones. Different hallway. Oh, so they're heating up milk for Dirk.
すごい熱。どうして？
A terrible fever. Don't think I've heard this
they leave
song
it there.
before,
Okay,
so
I'll
leave it there too. New song for the season? I humbly offer to Dragoner, the goddess of time, 420 units of mana. Exciting episode. Delia and Dirk. So cute. Ooh, I'm gonna have to look at that more in detail. Okay. Let's see. We've got Heidi. I
and
humbly offer to
Joseph.
Dragoner, the goddess of time, 420 units of mana. Which he's holding looks more like watercolors. I would have thought their roles would have been different, as in Heidi would have been super excited about just mixing these new colors or mixing these different ingredients and making these different colors, and Myne looking confused, taking note of what's actually happening. Because yeah, you can clearly see that Heidi and Joseph, they're the ones that have been actually making ink, because it's all over them, but Myne should still have... Yeah, Myne is still clean, so... She wasn't doing the dirty work. It's a nice little color palette up top. So this episode 32, the beginning scene was more information on what our antagonists are going to look like. The upcoming problem that Myne is going to have to face involved. We saw these four faces in particular. We had the Viscountess Daldorf, Gieb Gerlach, Count Bindewald, who is from Arensbach. So they haven't mentioned. They've started to mention domains. He is from a different one called Arensbach, whereas that would allow them to step around the authority, I guess, of Ob Ehrenfest with regards to the adoption of Myne, I think he was referring to. Because she has the devouring, or rather because she has a source of mana, I guess Ob Ehrenfest would then want to have control over that, which makes sense. Something that's clearly quite powerful, you should keep under lock and key, or at least know where it is and where it's going. And then we also have the High Bishop Bezawanst, or Evil Santa. They're all talking about the unfortunate outcome of the previous episodes. They weren't able to capture Myne, and they lost quite a few devouring soldiers from Bindewald. He wants to restock these, and they constantly make reference to, or rather, he makes reference to wanting to buy Myne. He wants to restock, and if you recall in the earlier seasons, they mention Myne would not be able to have children unless mana capacity matches. You can connect the dots. At the end of that meeting, though, they present Bezawanst with this black stone, and he seemed super happy to have one in his possession. So that's likely to become some important plot point in the future. Myne, once she returns to the temple after a couple days off, she starts telling everyone about her new baby brother, Camille. Fran did not look exactly happy about hearing it. New children is not exactly a good thing for the temple, I guess, because they're mouths to feed, they can't do any work, and they're extra responsibility and difficulty. No one's had to deal with it for a while. They don't mention it here, and I'm not sure if they are going to delve into it at all. As a result of the purge, there was less blue robe priests and priestesses giving or using attendants and thus feeding them and providing extra income to the church in that manner. So as those blue robe priests and priestesses left, they had a surplus of gray robe priests and priestesses, and Bezawanst started selling them off as much as he could. As a result, there are few, or actually there are now none, that know what to do with regards to raising an infant. That was the issue that they were having right at the start. They didn't know what to do when this baby was left at their doorstep. Myne, though, pulls information from what she's read in her previous life and mentions or has them start heating up goat's milk to provide at least something, since they don't have a wet nurse yet. Ferdinand doesn't know what to do either. He doesn't have any children, or he has no experience in child rearing, so he suggested maybe trying to find a wet nurse in the city to come into the temple. But it's kind of difficult. Her parents were not fond of the concept of entering the temple at all. There's a stigma with entering into the temple because it's pretty much only for the most desperate, for the orphans, the ones that have no social framework to survive on their own. Probably going to be difficult to find a wet nurse to come into the temple, but they'll continue caring for this new baby, this infant that they have decided to call Dirk. Myne right away starts pairing Delia up with Dirk, or at least trying to get her interested in this new child. And there's a brief little chibi scene, which is, I guess, more likely to be the inner thoughts of Myne, or her recollections of how things go. In her mind, getting Delia to switch from her current aspirations to be a concubine instead and to care for Dirk is something much more palatable to her moral set. Things are going to be very difficult if they're trying to raise this infant without too much of a framework around it. Right now, they have Wilma, Rosina, and Fran. I guess also Delia and Delia and Gil could assist in caring for this infant, but Myne doesn't have that many attendants. They're going to have to take shifts. This is something her mother mentioned. Trying to schedule sleeping or having extra naps to make up for the increased burden that caring for a newborn infant is. They eventually go and meet with Heidi, who is the daughter of the man who stepped up to take up reins over the Ink Guild. After Wolf died, there's of course a power vacuum, so someone had to step up. And when someone gets, well, we don't know exactly how Wolf died, but when someone gets killed, no one really wants to take his job, or at least no sane person would want to step into something that apparently is dangerous now. This man steps forward, he takes a position, and Heidi is interested in meeting Myne because Myne has this new form of ink, and Myne is also interested in getting people to start working on colors. Since she can't work more towards the letterpress printing, the vested interest that she would be in conflict with would be nobles because they transcribe books or at least have people transcribe books for them. If she were to go into mass printing or mass production of books, they would take issue with that. As such, she's going to focus on improving the quality of what she's currently making, which is to say with mimeograph printing, which is when you're cutting out, I guess, a mask, or you're cutting out a stencil and then printing through that stencil onto the page. You can still make multiple copies, but it's not as elegant as a solution as letterpress printing. She's going to continue trying to improve mimeograph printing, which is the stencil making, and also adding colors to her books. And that's why she's also excited to meet the Ink Guild, or rather, which then results in meeting with, I guess, an adult counterpart to Myne in terms of obsession with something. Myne is obsessed with books. Heidi is obsessed with learning things, specifically about ink. She saw this new creation. She wants to learn more. She wants to test everything. Myne agrees to pay for some of the research costs because it is expensive to research something brand new. But what is more important to Myne is getting colors that work. Not researching everything, not figuring out why it's doing the weird things that it's doing, which that's something that caught Myne off guard. The ingredients of this world do not act the same. So they have to experiment with everything in order to try and get the correct color. Heidi, of course, is super intrigued and she wants to focus on this, but Myne is going to keep someone else in check. Someone else is trying to rampage and go around do whatever research they want. Myne is like, no, focus on this, make this specific ink so that I can use it. Afterwards, we had a nice, cute little scene where Gil wanted his diptych or was curious about when that was going to be made. Just the expression that they put on his face was, I guess the only word I can really come up with it is cute. Like, you want to console him, you want to make him feel better. He's trying so hard to get Myne's approval, or there's a gap in Gil's life. He didn't really have that kind of help. He was in the orphanage, and prior to Myne getting there, that orphanage was a horrible place. They were losing money like crazy, and the living conditions were horrible. He didn't really have someone caring for him, and Myne is stepping into that role, or has started to take over that position, that almost motherly influence for him. She's giving him head pats. She's trying to praise him, and that's actually what started changing his personality so much. Is she started praising him, and he had an about face. He was a problem child, but now that someone was paying attention to him or caring about him, then Gil started to get this extra affection, which he wasn't used to before. He didn't realize he was missing it or wanted it even. But now he just wants more, and he's trying to do what he can to please Myne. So he's also going to be getting they're ordering a stylus, which would of course be for the diptych that he would eventually be able to write in the wax. Like, let's see, in this episode we saw Benno using one, and we saw Lutz using one as well. After that, we saw a brief scene with Delia reporting to the High Bishop, finally being able to get a hold of him. She mentions that Myne has a baby brother. He doesn't really care anymore. That's kind of worrying. So in the past he would have cared, but now not so much. So they have some plan in place to deal with Myne or to do something to Myne. She looks so excited, mentioning, "Oh yeah, we have a new kid in the orphanage," but Bezawance doesn't care about the orphanage at all. He's like, "Oh okay, whatever, you can leave." So the episode ended off with Delia going to feed Dirk, but he had hives all over his face. He didn't look good. He had a high fever. Myne has lost brothers and sisters already from either miscarriages or not surviving long enough. And if Dirk is already sick, that's not a good sign. The next episode is titled Delia and Dirk, so we're probably going to focus more on those two and any sort of relationship they have. So this was not as lighthearted an episode as I thought it would be, but the series and the source material is not afraid to go into areas that might make you sad. The next episode, episode 33, though, yeah, I don't think that one's going to be a happy one either. Oh, yes. This chapter, which had also for the J novel release, the Prepubs. This chapter with the, I guess, epilogue stories, or I think they're the side stories originally on the web novel. Oh. To avoid names, H and C, it's not cute. Not at all. No. Concerning. L and C, though. Oh, L and C. That was just so cute. I don't remember the light novel being that good. I'll have to take a look back, maybe reread those the side story that would have been associated with that. Oh, it's just so cute. Just the right level of tsundere for L. And then I didn't really think about it, but it makes sense given everything else that has been explained in universe. But yeah, lewd handholding, super lewd. How improper, and how, I guess if you, yeah, that ties up real well with other things in the past. Yeah, lewd handholding. Thank you very much. Catch you all next week.